and it would be used by committees. And then they would take the AI to do their research, and then they would get a menu of options from the AI, and then they would pick an option. And the political scientist piped up immediately and said, yes, that's exactly how it's going to be used. And then I added, and whenever the AI is wrong, they will blame the AI.
Without further ado, Scott, you said we've got a guest. Who's our secret guest?
Yeah, what's up, you guys? Okay, so we do have a fantastic guest, one of my dear friends who has done a lot of work to help me over the years, has been a huge advocate for my freedom of speech and many other content creators. And I know that he's a Autonomy graduate. He's one of the awesome Autonomy graduates who takes it and runs and actually goes and builds businesses and has success and helps move freedom forward in the world. And so, yeah, I'm happy to introduce Matthew Raymer from ContentSafe. What's going on, Matthew?
Hey, you guys hear me okay?
Gotcha.
What's up, Matthew? No, Scott, this is my friend, Matthew Raymer, who has helped me over the years. What's up, man? How you doing? I like your background.
Thank you. Can you recognize what it is?
Is that Mark Anthony?
The Sword of Damocles.
Oh, Sword of Damocles. Okay, I can see that. Yeah, there's a Sword of Damocles, and you gotta sit under it for the time that you're the ruler. No masters, no slaves.
It also happens if you're the project leader too.
Yeah, it also happens if you're an entrepreneur, if you're a dad, if you're a homeowner, if you're a husband. There's a lot of Sword of Damocles out there for people.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, so what time is it in your part of the world?
It's 10:50 a.m.
Oh, 10:50. Oh, so it's exactly 12 hours difference.
Yeah, from East Coast. Yeah.
All right, from East Coast time. All right, so that's good to know. All right, so ContentSafe has been cooking in the background. It just does its thing. I've been distributing with it now for like 4 or 5 years.
Yeah, me too. It's one of the very first clients, dude. Yep, and back in the Truthzilla days, and so it's man, it's been a lifesaver for me.
And we keep improving. You know, I'm a one-man shop as far as development. I've tried hiring people over the years, and it's really hard to find someone that has the same vision that I do about where I want the service to go. So I've ended up doing about 90% of the development of the product. So some things are still under development, or let's just say ContentSafe's always under development.
No. You call that always growing.
Yes,
and evolving. That's true. It's not under construction. Like, so from my perspective, like the brilliance was, as a content creator, there's so many places to upload, and they're all a pain in the ass. And when you and Daryl were talking about protecting people from getting censored online, because that was like the big thing back in the day, was everyone's getting deplatformed, and that's a legitimate thing. But when you guys came to me, I'm like, that's a fear-based sale point. And like, what's the positive point? Like, you can also offer that service, but what would be the positive point? And then the brilliant idea of being able to upload once and have it go to all the platforms you want, right? That's a great idea, but how do you map that to reality? Well, you have to have a guy like Matt who can see that vision and be like, yeah, I see what you're talking about, but he also knows like the ones and zeros of how to make it happen, because I could see that vision, but I don't know. I can't watch a couple YouTubes and figure that out.
Right.
Yeah,
it would take me years of training to figure that out. So that's a place where it's like, that's a monthly subscription right there.
Yeah, it's been absolutely invaluable, because as a content creator, that is the bottleneck, is, you upload to each individual platform. It's like literally almost impossible unless either you hire someone and pay them thousands of dollars a month to manage it and do that, or you have an automated
even the people that hire people, they use software like that, so they don't have to pay people to do the tedious parts of like what software can do.
Exactly. And
Matt did it before AI got here. I'm just letting you guys know.
Oh, totally.
You know, he's like 1,000 of those AI agents and one plus.
Well, let me tell you what. You start adding AI to what I've done already, and that's like adding jet fuel to it. It really is.
Cool. That's awesome, man. Yeah, I'm excited to hear about kind of what you're working on around it, because, and anybody that listens to like a traditional MP3 podcast, and anybody that uses traditional MP3 podcasters, or if you're a podcaster, you have like a Podbean or something like that, Podomatic, where you upload your MP3 to one source and it distributes it to iTunes, Spotify. So it's basically that concept where it would be impossible to put your podcast on all the thousands of different streaming platforms that are podcast catchers that catch the RSS feed. You know what I mean? And so
this podcast shows up places I never thought it would be, like Spotify.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And so Raymer's been able to figure out how to do that for video podcasts. And so like the workload has just been, dude, it's been like when I first started podcasting, I was like, that was my biggest nightmare, was uploading to each individual platform. And you saved my life, man. You've literally saved my life and allowed me the freedom to just focus on just making content.
What we're trying to move into now, and I've been doing some experimenting before I go to bed. Like an hour before bed is whenever I experiment. And I've been working on different ways of taking shows and making them more accessible. So, for instance, using open source transcription software, you can actually transcribe a show pretty easily.
Yeah, we know all about that. Yeah.
Right. So what we're doing is building something, I'm calling it Open Inquiry. And it will transcribe and not just make the show searchable, but also read it into a AI model.
What's the benefit of that for the user?
They can have the ability to ask it a question about the show.
What?
Sounds like a good Clip Genie integration, dude.
Yeah, well, that's something you all.
We need to talk.
How do we put chocolate with peanut butter?
Yeah, because we've got like, we've done that, so like say we'll take a show like Grand Theft World, we've got we've done the cost and everything for the transcription and attached to the database in a searchable form. So if we were to then build like what you're describing, like an interactive brain, like you can ask, it can be like the AI.
I want it done right. So like, what you guys at Clip Genie's done is great first step.
Yeah.
Well, what we need to do next is it's called diauralization, where you distinguish different voices in the audio stream.
That's a big word, dude.
Diauralization. I like that.
Yeah,
diauralization. If you use it 3 times, it's yours. Diauralization. But that's just discerning who says what so like in Adobe Premiere, I can shoot a video clip, I can bring it in there, and it'll transcribe it, and then I can name the speakers, and it'll go through and do that part. All right.
And then we need to be able to feed it into an existing AI model and make it queryable.
That is definitely possible this year, isn't it?
All of this is possible. It's just that people have done parts of it. Now, actually, every piece of this has already been done in open source form. It's just putting it all together and making
it. If it's open source and decentralized, what would 7Cs say from last week who said don't use the AI? How do we balance this out?
I think that we have no choice but to use AI. And that's one of the things I wanted to talk about today is
AI is definitely being used on you to surveil you. Can you use AI to emancipate yourself from
That's what I'm saying,
the aforementioned
I
tyranny?
don't think we have a choice.
Yeah.
You might not, because they're working pretty quick with the AIs.
Yeah. I think that all the legislation we're seeing, anti-AI legislation's meant to keep AI out of our hands.
Yeah, I mean, from a government perspective, you would only want a couple groups working on it so you can keep an eye on it.
Well, I heard a guy about 3 months ago claiming that the legislation's already been written to restrict AI to only 4 corporations.
Patriot Act was written before 9/11.
Yeah.
The Afghan invasion was approved on September 6th. There was a whole lot of stuff. They had to order new uniforms for that gig. They didn't go over there in jungle camo, woodland camo. You know what I'm saying? Like there was logistics to arrange. You can't just move a whole, set of troops over there in that magnitude, like in 30 days. They were in there in October of 2001 with all the new gear that they needed to fight in this suddenly surprise environment.
But technology moves very fast.
Yes, it does.
And
we're going to learn about Jacques Ellul later.
Right. And that's, like I said, that's one of the things I wanted to talk about today. Technology moves very fast. And we're looking at a space of a few years that they won't be able to put the genie back into the bottle.
So you're talking about putting like local models as opposed to these corporate models that are just scraping everything from the internet and piling into one big thing. That with this tool that you're talking about could go through, you could put all hundreds of your podcasts in and basically be able to ask a question, and its data set that it's pulling from is your entire podcast, possibly all the references from the podcast, and you can pull up the exact clip with the exact wording that you want at any moment.
To help people understand faster. So we could search in a Corbett quote or a Ryan Christian quote, and their stuff could be searchable. And with your, so you're enabling the liberty movement to speak with the intended audience even faster than before. Because really, it's like you could look at it like we're trying to save people, like the boat is sinking and we have a rescue boat, or they're prisoners in the cave. They're chained up, and we're outside the cave, and we're like, "Hey, it's beautiful out here." And we go in there, and we're like, "Hey, will you come out to play?" And they're like, "No, I like being chained. Stop asking me." And then we always find a couple that are like, "Dude, get me the fuck out of here," right? And we help them find their way out. But the rest of the people are like, "No, I'm really into the shadows on the wall." Okay, leave them to Jesus, or leave them to play whatever. Whoever ran the cave down there. Not sure whose cave it is. It's not Plato's.
I think people's apprehensions with AI is when they're talking about generative AI that's based on pre-existing creative work, right? And they don't want their own artwork or their own film creations or their own whatever remixed into some data set so that their work is like some derivative thing is 90% theirs, as opposed to these local language models where you could program Black's Law Dictionary into your own law bot, or like a whole bunch of, books on actual health and natural health, and have your own doctor bot, or having my own podcast bot. Take all your own creative work and make your own AI that helps you replicate your own voice in a more efficient and effective manner.
And imagine the potential of, I want a bot that has a certain viewpoint. Right. So I feed in people from a certain viewpoint, and I feed in people from another viewpoint. And now I can ask each one of those a question like, well, what do you think about this? And I can actually compare what their thoughts are.
I'd mix in a sarcasm bot just for your little levity.
Sure.
Yeah.
Let's see, Matthew. So I have a question for you. So do you make a distinction between AI and then these large language models?
Yes,
so what we're seeing now, the ChatGPT.
We don't really have
models.
We don't have a general AI.
No, general AI. So general AI is a very, very specific thing. And even like they talk about AI, there's a precursor. And it could be argued that some of the stuff being developed is like genuine artificial intelligence, but we haven't quite reached
my argument
the general
has been,
AI. But it's like, but I see a distinction between large language models and
absolutely
AI. Can you kind of?
This is a whole ecosystem of technologies. And a general AI, I think, as it's currently imagined, is one that combines all of these sub technologies into something that appears to be like a human intelligence. And I wrote a 10-hour, several years ago, a decade ago, I wrote a 10-hour course on all of this stuff that I sold. And that was my understanding from 10 years ago. LLMs were not really a thing yet 10 years ago, but they are now. And they sure look human-esque, But if you use them at the level that I'm using them at, you can really see that they're really fall short of being the same as talking to a human expert. But if you are looking at them from a conventional public school education, they seem like geniuses.
Very true. And, they obviously have certain limitations that, are just very apparent once you reach certain guardrails.
The more time and technology, the harder it will be to tell them from humans.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you can see where it's all headed. I mean, you can look at, I saw some sort of thing on social media recently where it was showing an AI text prompt generated video from last year, early 2024. And I remember it was very kind of like the rendering wasn't quite there. It was you could tell it looked more like.
When I got introduced to ChatGPT 2 years ago, I broke it in 1 hour.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, in 1 hour.
Yeah.
Now, no, I can break it, but it usually takes me after a long, prolonged sequence of working with it before I can find, okay, this is a problem. It's not really getting the topic well.
Yeah.
And I use AI for more than coding. I use it also for, personal research.
Sure. Yeah. So I don't know, man. I also think that, yeah, like what you're saying, like I see it as a tool in a lot of ways for gaining more independence, autonomy for myself. If I can utilize, I've always been a big proponent of using their tools against them. If I can use their platforms, their tools, their software in order to further myself or gain more autonomy in my life, then I view that as a win. So,
well, of course, I think they nerf what we're given.
Oh, of course.
But the fact that they may not nerf their own is a problem for them. I got invited to a panel 5 years ago. This was a private panel, graduate school friends of mine. And we had people from theology, political science, and technology. And we were talking about AI. And on the panel, there was this one political scientist, and I made the comment that AI would be used in governance, and it would be used by committees, and then they would take the AI to do their research, and then they would get a menu of options from the AI, and then they would pick an option. And the political scientist piped up immediately and said, yes, that's exactly how it's going to be used. And then I added, and whenever the AI is wrong, they will blame the AI.
Yep.
And not themselves for the selection they made.
Well,
and I just heard this week that bills are already being constructed using LLMs.
Yeah, of course. So much. Well, they're probably taking these big bills and running them through and summarizing. I've done a little bit of that.
I was in a project recently where we did exactly that. We took state level legislative bills and we summarized them for people.
Yeah. So, but what you were describing right there as like, hey, if things go catastrophically wrong, they can blame it on the AI, right? It kind of cuts both ways where they can also, it's I bring this up a lot when we're talking about AI. It's the idea of like, appeal to authority. They have this ability to create where the AI is infallible, and therefore it's the AI is not racist. The AI cannot go wrong, and
which
so
is something we have to break. We have to break that idea that it's possible to make an AI that's neutral.
Exactly. Well, because it has the coder's bias built into it, but there's going to be a world where they can justify anything just by saying, well, because the AI says, which is just the appeal to authority on such a degree that we can't even comprehend. But then they can also do the same thing when things go wrong. They can just say, oh, it's the AI. So that's
what Minority Report, those people laying in the hot tub, they were just the AI. That's the pre-crime bureau, right? They didn't know how to visualize it. They're like, well, if we put 3 people in a hot tub laying head to head.
Yeah, exactly.
So they've been planning on doing it for a long time, and it took a long time for them to get us to fund it all. But we do by standing in line at Apple stores and all the other nonsense that goes on, right? They got the people to fund their own Panopticon because Panopticon's expensive to build. And they're like, who's going to fund it? And they're like, what if we got them to fund it, right? That probably happened in the meeting at some point because it's going on. They probably had a meeting for that to go on. It's not accident.
If you want to weld the system shut, which I'm not saying this is possible now, where everything's tied into these intelligence systems, even your own stuff is tied into it. Snowden said that they were at the top of the intelligence chain and no one was monitoring them. In this world, the intelligence systems would be monitoring everything. So they are the last. There's no human above them. You're putting your faith in them to do all of that. And we would call this the book Dune, or at least the Butlerian Jihad.
It's kind of like in Newsbenders from 1968, where the top floor of the building is the AI that decides and controls all the remote transmitters and the bombs in everybody's neck. And you got to kind of think about how corporatism divorced decision making from responsibility, right? Where you could run up all this debt with a corporation and then just like close the corporation. And it's like, oops, what did the corporation do? It wasn't me who was driving the ship who's at fault. And now with AI, you'll have even more plausible deniability, and you're outsourcing the decision making and the responsibility for the decision making. And the one thing that AI doesn't really have mastered, it's good at the grammar portion, it's good at the rhetoric portion, but the logic, the math, it's still not there. It is not even close. Even the best models still.
And that's what I tell friends and family that come to me and say, oh, this thing is thinking. I'm like, no, it's not. It's not thinking. I'll tell you an anecdote. Before the LLMs came out, I was preparing a lecture for a company in Scandinavia. So I was looking for material on this subject, and I kept running across these pages that were just walls of text. That was early LLMs. It almost made sense. What the wall of text was saying almost made sense. And now I look back and I'm like, well, man, that was a proto LLM being used for SEO. So you query this thing, it really can't think. It's seeing statistical patterns and likely connections, which is the brilliance of LLMs, is pattern matching. So I like to call LLMs information navigators and not intelligences.
And because they still have to be ranked by the preferential answer, right? There's still a human putting I like this answer A over answer B, and then it uses that to reinforce what's the preferable answer. Because at the end of the day, you're right, it's not thinking in terms of logic, like logical fallacies and removing contradictions, because it doesn't actually know what is true. It knows what it has been told are defined terms. And so the way it thinks is it's really trying to guess what the next preferable word is going to be. And that's the result of thousands, if not more, tens of thousands of man hours sitting there going, this is a preferable response out of 4 responses you might get in some, place in like Africa or Asia where they pay people to sit in a data center and just do that all day. And then say, this is also
just pure mining where you take like books. This is what I think it was it Grok or OpenAI that the whistleblowers said they were taking pirated books and feeding pirated books into the system to train it.
Yeah, the OpenAI whistleblower? I don't know.
I'm not sure.
OpenAI whistleblower definitely was alleging that they were just taking not just public domain stuff, but copyrightable works. And because, again, it's like your local model might be transparent and all the data that's going into it. With these public corporate models, we don't necessarily know. You don't get to do really an audit publicly.
Well, let me tell you,
data sets.
Back 2 years ago, I asked ChatGPT to give me the introduction to Jacques Ellul's Technological Society in French. Give me the foreword, the intro. And without pausing, it was immediately giving me in French the original intro to the book. I don't know if you could do that now, but...
Well, let's see. What was it again?
I think my first search was about like the Club of Rome and Bilderberg Group. Let me see if I could pull it up over here. Okay. I might still have it.
Yeah, also the modern version of George Orwell's guy getting the paper tube saying how he has to rewrite history would literally just be going to the LLM and saying, blacklist this search term.
Right.
Right? And then it's like, that doesn't exist anymore.
The problem is that language is so porous and information is so porous that if you were determined, you could probably still get to the information. There's really no way to set up a rule that would prevent you from getting there. But most people are not that determined.
Most people weren't using ChatGPT that long ago either. Nerd. Matt is cutting edge. He's at the vanguard of technology, and that's why it's like, okay, I'll just sit and listen to him talk about, because I'm comparing to what I know. I know that DARPA exists. I know that DARPA and NSA and CIA helped to bring Google around, and you could go to the MDDS and the National Science Foundation, DARPA in 1998, Anatomy of a Search Engines paper on page 16, section 7, or whatever the reference is for that. And you can learn all about it because that's a government, situation. And what are they going to do? It's a big gateway to see what everybody's interested in. You don't think the people that run like dozens of intelligence agencies, some of which aren't even named out there, you don't think they want to know that about people? What do you think AOL was? What do you think Steve Case and those guys figured out when they pulled a big knife out in a meeting, to intimidate Jeff Bezos into doing business with them?
Oh, you know what? I've told that story, and I thought it was Jeff Bezos that pulled the knife out.
No. It's the AOL guys.
Oh, the AOL guys.
It's this book by...
Okay. See, I was trying to look it up probably on Grok. I was like, tell me about the story when Jeff Bezos pulled the knife out.
It's called Stealing Time. And it's about the AOL Time Warner merger. And at one point, a young Jeff Bezos takes a meeting with these guys, and these guys pull out like a hunting knife and stab it in the table as a form of intimidating him. And then AOL disappeared and Amazon appeared, and I don't know, something happened back in the day, but we don't know what it is. But Jeff Bezos is one of the richest people in the world, and he sends penises to space with ladies in it, which is a big deal. We don't have time to cover that story this week because it's such nonsense.
Huge victory for men, that one. Jen, yeah. Huge victory for men.
See women inside? I don't know. It's not see men.
Yeah.
It's different. Anyway, connotations and context matter in conversations. You're good.
Well, I was going to ask Matthew, I know that you've got, you sent me links, and you guys, there should be links in the show notes for all of Matthew's stuff, but you've got all these other projects. Can you briefly just tell us kind of some of the other stuff you got cooking?
Yeah. We've got the Anti-Censorship Technical Committee, which is ACTC, and we're a group of technical professionals. We've got one aerospace engineer in there and another crypto guy and some developers that we're trying to organize funding sources for anti-censorship projects. So we're on Substack, actc.substack.com.
Dude, your page is 404. Just kidding. No, I'm just kidding.
I hate
Anti-Censorship Technical Committee.
Earlier today, we were dealing with a clip genie, dude. And I'm like, it has to be. I was like, Dean, you got to get it 100% because I'm going on the show tomorrow. So you got to get it dialed in.
So that group has been a very, very challenging, entertaining thing for me. We have an in-house project, which is called CensorGuard. It is the reboot of Ernest Hancock's Pirate Stick or Pirate Box.
Well, I recognize his logo there on the cube.
Yeah,
the pirate.
Yeah.
I saw the pirate logo.
Yeah, we rebranded it as CensorGuard.
Good.
It's a little bit better branding, I think.
It's better for the market.
Yeah, and
instead of just 10 people who get the inside reference.
There's really some great potential in that project for definitely for content creators and online communities. The other project I'm involved in is one called Time Safari. This is basically a cryptography project. It's got a little bit of blockchain in it, but we are not a cryptocurrency. We are a self-sovereign identity project where we're encouraging people to keep their information private and share it only within communities that they know the people. So the angle of Time Safari is gratitude. It's a app that you can express gratitude for things that people have done for you, and you can have projects where you talk about time you spent donating to a project. And I'm actually the chief developer at Time Safari. I do all the front end coding for them.
You are a man of many talents, Matt Raymer.
Yeah,
I'm glad you're on our side and not working for the New World Order in some Rand Corporation think tank type of situation. Well,
let me tell you what, I have a lot of unusual things that happen to me.
On the road to liberty, character building experiences abound. And we become anti-fragile from the process.
There you go.
Matt, thanks for getting up early for the show. No, I know you've been up for a while.
No,
but most guys
I've been
have
up
to
since
stay up
5.
late. Most guests have to stay up late to get to this show.
Yep, works out perfect. Well, yeah, man, dude, thank you for popping in. You want to plug everything, let people know where they can find and support you?
ContentSafe.co is my bread and butter, and we're trying to grow even more now and get some more content creators on board.
Now, Matt, most people who's listening to the podcast, they think, what do I need Content Safe for? Because I don't produce. I'm a consumer. And the answer is, send it to your favorite producers so they can have their stuff on multiple platforms so that when things get tight again in the information world, they don't get censored out of oblivion. If you want to keep listening to somebody's stuff, make sure it is getting decentralized out there. And it doesn't have to be content safe, but he's the only one I know that has to offer on the market.
What if you have a content creator who doesn't have the money to pay to help Content Safe do its thing? That's my point. Right? Why don't you donate on behalf of that creator so that we can do the work?
Buy them a Content Safe package. There you go.
There you go. Yep.
We did it live. See that?
Awesome.
That offer didn't exist 2 minutes ago. Entrepreneurs make stuff up out of thin air, and they put it in the marketplace. It's creativity, it's vision, it's ingenuity, it's inventive nature. It's all the things that kindergarten and first through 12th grade stifled out of you, such that by the time you got to college, all you wanted to do was party. Or maybe that's just my case. I don't know. We'll have to see. We'll have to see. Matt, thank you for rocking it with us. We always appreciate your technological acumen, the knowledge and experience you bring to the table, but also like how you make the ones and zeros fly all over the place. And we don't even have to think about it, as Ethan Klein likes to say. He likes to say it. And maybe he sees it. He has a t-shirt and he looks in the mirror. It'd be backwards though. Anyway, Matt, have a muy productive rest of your day.
Thank you, sir.
And looking forward to seeing you again soon. Scott, good lineup with Matt. That was good. I saw the anti-censorship project, but I didn't see his name in the notes, so I didn't know Matt.
Yeah, I've been in the production chat
right before this.
In the production chat, I got guests lined up for the next 2 months, so I got awesome guests. I've been trying to keep it updated in the production chat, so keep an eye out for that.
Bro, I just sent you that text last week to like, hey, could you schedule some guests? Because I don't have time right now.
I got you, dude. And I got some awesome guests coming up, so we're very excited. But it was kind of funny I got to just tell you a quick anecdote. So you reminded me when you were saying how, when you get a bunch of entrepreneurs in the room, ideas start flying. So I just have to tell a quick story. So
are we letting Matt go? See you later, Matt.
Oh yeah, Matt, take it easy, man. Take it easy.
Yeah, I want to make sure he wasn't like on the hook. Like, am I still here or not? I've been on that. Yeah. Okay.
My bad.
He's good. He's being productive now.
But this was like, this is my segue. This is my segue out of that. But it's like basically, so up here in Texas, and Rob Dew, InfoWars, he's like, you want to go to Del Bigtree's birthday party? And I'm like, okay. So he's like, all right, come pick me up. So I scoop him up, and we go. And it was like everyone is drinking. So it's like, I'm usually the only sober person at a gathering like that. And so it turned into one of those sessions where everyone was brainstorming ideas and everyone's drunk. And it was like, bro, we need to come up with diapers for kids that will prevent them from getting autism, dude. Like, so that was the best one that came out of it, was the diaper that will prevent you from getting autism if you have to get vaccines. So there you go.
I don't know how that would work, but
I don't know, but anyway,
start with the end result.
I was just trying to paint a picture of a fun little gathering of just drunk freedom fighters coming up with crazy inventions. So that was fun.
How old is Del? Are we allowed to
I don't know. I don't know what the age was.
All right, you didn't ask. That's good. I shouldn't have asked.
But
I shouldn't have asked.
No.
But yeah, I saw Del here. He came to Hartford right before COVID kicked off. So it was like February of 2020. COVID's going on in China. It's going on here, but not really. And there was a vaccine protest in Connecticut because they were trying to remove the religious mandate. Now, normally, I don't go to protests or do any of that type of stuff. But when I heard that my state was trying to remove the religious exemption and make it mandatory, and all these homeschooling families were upset because their kids were in situations, or all these school families were like trying to pull their kids out of school. So I went to the Capitol and I protested with my doctor and Del Bigtree. And we had a good time. And then like 2 weeks later, that was all off the table, and nobody's concerned with that anymore because we're all in lockdown, and it was a brave new world. But yeah, I'm glad you guys got to hang out, and that he's around for another circumnavigation of our local celestial sphere.
There you go. Heck yeah.
I was just being like George Carlin-esque, where he said people use big words to sound smart. I was trying to do that thing.
You nailed it.
It worked for a second.
I just wanted to comment that, ContentSafe, my wife's been using it for almost a year now for her tarot channel that's just crossed 500,000 subscribers. And it's been rock solid on the 5 platforms that we replicate to. All the metadata, all the links, everything is always working great. So,
that's important details right there.
Chime that in before Matthew left, but to his credit, he's always been.
No, I meant about the metadata.
Oh,
like if it doesn't bring over your metadata and just post your videos, it's not like as good as it could be. But ContentSafe does all the bells and whistles type things because we've been refining it for years now.
Yeah.
User feedback to Matt. That's how it goes. Yep. Hey man, can you do this?
And he's very responsive. Like if we've ever had a concern, which is pretty rare, then he gets back to us right away. And he's always improving it and adding functionality. So great service.
Not a sponsor, just a friend, just and an Autonomy graduate.
Twice a year, I teach a course called Autonomy. It's a 12-week course. It teaches leadership, entrepreneur skills, executive skills, all these types of things that I saw were taken out of our education system in order to make the schooling or indoctrination system that we've all probably went through. And it has served us well enough to be interchangeable cogs in the machine of the globalists. But if we want a homestead, if we want write our own ticket, work from home job, work from anywhere type of situation, they're not exactly handing those out at the end of college. They give you a piece of paper and they're like, good luck. So reality is dropping us off here, but the demands of reality are up here. So I created Autonomy to help people close that gap for themselves so they can level up their skills to the demands of the situations that life is putting in front of us presently. Life's demands of intellect and understanding precision and complexity are ever increasing. The schooling didn't prepare us for it. The media is not going to do anything but reinforce what schooling prepared us for. And so we're going to have to take a leadership position and take steps off the beaten path to kind of blaze our own trail in life. What makes the Grand Theft World podcast unique, invigorating, exciting, and informative? Most other podcasts out there are either doing straight up interviews or they're just covering the daily news. They're covering current events from the day they happened. And that is effective. It's useful. It's a great starting point. And then sometimes these current events change during the week past the first story. So we like to give it a little time. You have to wait till some of the dust settles on these stories in order to give them accurate coverage. And the other thing that's really missing in the media landscape is covering the articles that are coming out every day. That's great. That's necessary. But who's bringing in contextual history so that you can understand what has been going on for decades and decades to lead up to the machinations and actions that we see unfolding today? So what we do here on the podcast is we cover current events. Many of these things are censored, but we wait about a week. As a forensic historian, I focused mainly through my career on the history of globalism and collectivism and things that they call maybe the New World Order. There's a lot of facts to these sort of circumstances, groups, events, activities, working groups that they've had over time. So for Grand Theft World listeners, we not only break down the current events, most of which that are censored during the week, we provide you with contextual history, we give you the source notes, the references, we do deep dives, and this really empowers you with an understanding of context and history so that you can make more informed decisions in your life. There's also a community, a membership where you guys can actually ask questions and we can get into the show and we can share evidence. And there's a town hall weekly for Grand Theft World for those who listen to it and are interested in covering the stories that we don't get to during a 6-hour show. Listening to it an hour a day, you could easily consume the week's news, but you're going to have substance and meaning and context and understanding. And with that, you can make higher quality decisions in your life. So if you're interested in more quality in your life, go to grandtheftworld.com, click podcast at the top, and we'll see you there. Thank you.
These allegations are false.
This isn't Grand Theft Auto, folks. This isn't a video game.
What are the most surprising things that you discovered once you started pulling on that thread? Who he was connected to, what institutions he was influential over, what events he participated in?
Come on, man. What are we talking about? Come on, man. No.
You don't have to think about it, dude.
I got this quote because you said you didn't know much about Klaus Schwab. I made it my job to, as soon as this happened, I'm like, okay, this guy's their front man. Let me learn about the official history of the World Economic Forum. I got their 40-year history. I got every book that Klaus Schwab has written or ghostwritten. I went through those books. This is one of the most interesting passages.
Come on, man.